If you actually do what I'm going to show you in this video, you will win 100% of the listing appointments you go on. You can't make up your own version, though. That's the only caveat. You have to do it exactly how I'm going to lay out in this video. And it's not just about winning any listing. It's about winning the right listings with dream clients who will actually price it to sell, and you win the client without having to cut or discount your commission. And no, it won't matter whether or not you're going up against agents that have way more experience than you. If you do exactly what I show you to do in this video, you will win 100% of the time. And if you're not a subscriber to my listing agent newsletter, which I send out every single Monday, there's a link in the description. And this Monday, I'm going to be dropping an issue that I have never shared ever before, never on the internet. And so if you want to get access to that email every single week with a new tactic for you to get a listing right now, click the link in the description. And so the first thing that we need to shift if you're going to win 100% of the listing appointments you go on is the mindset. What do you mean, Brandon? Just give me the tactic and the strategy. Listen, if I teach you what to do and I teach you how to do it without having the right mindset, you won't do it. So we have to start with the mindset. And this is by far and away the most important part of this entire thing. So here's the mindset if you are going to win listings in high volume. Number one, it's I am not here to convince you, Mr. Seller, that my stuff works. In fact, I have proof. I have proof that what I do actually works. And I can show you my list to sold percentage, which is 100%. Why? Because I only sell what I list. I'm not interested in just getting another listing. I am in the business of selling homes. And so if you're a realtor and you're watching this and you don't have 100% success rate with your list to sold ratio, think to yourself, okay, well, why is that? Why do I not have 100% success rate? Well, if you think back to the listings that you haven't sold, what was the reason? Oh, that's right. It was because the seller was unmotivated or they weren't willing to price it right. Fair or fair? Okay, we're going to talk about that in just a second. And Mr. Seller, my list to sold price ratio is over 100%. In fact, it's 103.6%, meaning that when I list a home, on average, I get my clients more than what they even wanted. So no, I am not here to convince you to list your house with me. In fact, I am here to be convinced to take your listing. Now, you might say, okay, Brandon, seriously, come on. Is that? Yes, I am being dead serious. If I'm coaching you and you're a coaching client, you know exactly where I'm going with this. And see, here's the thing. You should be going to a listing appointment to interview the seller and the house. Again, I think that, to be fair, regardless of your experience, if you're watching this video right now, that if somebody lists their house with you, I believe that you would actually do a good job. And you probably would do a good job. So why do you have to be the one to convince the seller that you are good at what you do? See, my mindset is I need to be convinced to take you on as a client because my resources, my tactics, my strategies, they've been proven to work. What we don't have any proof of is how motivated are you? What condition is your property? Are you willing to go the distance in order to actually get your property on the market? Go through the nightmare of dealing with showings and inspections and appraisals and the emotional roller coaster ride. We have no evidence whatsoever whether or not you, Mr. Seller, are willing to step up the way that my track record has. And so, no, I'm not here to convince sellers to list their house with me. I go to listing appointments to interview the seller and to inspect the property to determine whether or not this person is going to be my next client. And so with this mindset, it does a couple of things. Number one, it equals the playing field. It puts me and the seller on equal battleground rather than what most agents do. And they go there and they're subservient to the seller. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Can I give you a foot rub? And they're very, very desperate and they're very needy. And so when they go into this situation, the prospect ends up controlling the entire process, which as a result, agents don't win listings because they're so concerned with being liked that they forget that most sellers decide on who is going to be their agent based on who they trust will do the best job. Who they trust will do the best job. If they happen to like the agent, that's just an added bonus. Do they trust and respect their expertise enough to trust their largest asset? You see, it's just like a financial planner. It's like, okay, well, I don't know about you, but I want somebody who's managing my money, who I trust and respect their expertise not to lose it. If they make me money, even better. And guess what? I'm not worried about whether or not I like the person. Same thing when I hire an attorney. I'm not going to hire an attorney based on, who I like the most at the bar. No, I'm going to hire an attorney who I trust will do the best job. Same thing with the doctor. I don't think it's a beauty pageant when you go and interview doctors. No, you're getting the doctor who you believe will do the best job for you and the people that you love. Fair or fair? Okay. Well, it's the same thing when sellers go to hire real estate agents to list and sell their home. They're going to do so based on the agent they trust and respect who will do the best job. Well, what's the point? The point is that the mindset you must have is being detached from the outcome of listing the home 100%. The second the seller sniffs or senses that you want this listing, your credibility is shot and you can't get it back. You have to go and have conversations with sellers such that they feel as though you don't care whether or not you get this listing. I'd like your listing. I want your listing, but I don't need your listing. So much so that we have to communicate in a way that the seller feels for real that getting us as their agent is the prize, not getting their listing. Because here's the other truth and the other mindset. This is going to break all your self-limiting beliefs. How many of you are there in the market? You specifically. I'm not talking about realtors. I'm talking about you, the individual person. How many of you are there in the market? There's only one. Okay. How many listings are there in your market? Oh, that's right. Thousands. So when we look at actually what is the commodity here and what is the actual scarce value? Well, the commodity is the seller. We can go get a bunch of those. We can go get a bunch of listings. What is the actual only variable in this equation that is more rare is you when you actually go and meet with the seller. So the mindset is, I don't need to convince them of anything. I'm going there to see, okay, is the property in a condition that makes it saleable? Is this seller a nice, rational human being that I actually want to work with? Because if not, if you've had a nightmare client, it is brutal. Is this seller actually motivated to sell, or are they just testing the market? Will this seller price it where it will actually sell? Or are they the seller who says, well, if I get this price, I'll sell. And if not, I'll stay here forever. These are the things that you're interviewing for. So when I say I'm here for the seller to convince me whether or not they should be my next client, it is not hyperbole. It's actually how I approach listing appointments. And believe me, the sellers feel it. I am perfectly fine walking out of that listing appointment if they are not motivated, if they are a pain in the rear end, if they will not price it right. I am perfectly fine closing up my folder, standing up, shaking their hand, and walking away. And guess what? The person who is more willing to walk away is the person who has the leverage. And so if this is your only listing appointment this year, you probably don't have this mindset. You're probably doing and saying and convincing and vomiting all over the seller to do and say whatever you need to say to get your sign in the front yard. See, this is what we call a list to list philosophy. We don't want listings. We want to sell houses. Well, I shouldn't speak for you. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not interested in just getting another listing to get a listing, to feed my ego and to feed my personal brand and to use the seller's home to get leads. I am not interested in that. I am interested in selling a house, giving my client an amazing client experience so that that client turns into more clients. I am not interested in being an unpaid consultant like 90% of our industry is. So that's the mindset. That's number one. So the second thing that we need to do if we want to close in a high percentage, and I'll explain to you why I have a 100% close rate in just a second. But the other thing is we have to stop closing when the prospect anticipates the close will happen. So here's what I mean. Where is the close happening? And I hate the word close because it's really not like you're going to have some magical set of words that closes the seller and the seller's like, okay, let's move forward. So that's just an old school, outdated term, but just so that we're all on the same page. Close, really, we're just talking about when are you going to present the idea or ask the seller to make a decision. Fair? Okay. Here's a major shift that when I show you this, it's going to challenge all of your beliefs. And so here's how most people do it is they have this conversation, they start a listing appointment and they go through their little pitch or their little vomit session and they vomit all over the seller for 30, 60, 90 minutes. And then they attempt to close at the what? At the end. So when do you think the seller or the prospect thinks that you're going to ask them to do something? At the end. How do most salespeople do it to you? At the end. And what does that lead to most of the time? It ends in a TIO. It ends in a I need to think it over. Because you just vomited all over me for an hour, hour and a half, or however long your listing appointment goes. And you just threw a whole bunch of stuff at me. And as a result, there's something called cognitive load. And so now you've given me all this stuff. And now I have to process it all and think it over. And the truth is this. This is the part that you can make a decision whether or not you're willing to accept this or not. And that is that in all the times that you've had people say, I need to think it over. Be honest. How often is that just code word for no? I'm not doing business with you ever. It's just that the way that you've positioned yourself as a needy, desperate salesperson, I'm just going to tell you think it over. But really what I'm saying is as soon as you leave this house, as soon as I can get you out of my home, you will never hear or see me again. But I don't want to deal in confrontation, so I'd rather just do what any smart prospect does that wants to get rid of a salesperson. What do you do when you want to get rid of a salesperson? You tell them, yeah, I'm really interested. This is really good. I just got to think it through. I just got to talk to my wife. I just got to do something to get rid of you now, because if I tell you no, then you won't stop badgering me. That now I have to deal in confrontation. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to give you what I call the mirage of hope and lead you to believe that I have interest when really I have no interest. Okay, fine. When should you be closing? Well, this is the part that's going to, I don't know how you're going to feel about it. The close should happen at the beginning, my friends. The close should happen at the beginning. Before you get started with the conversation. And yes, I'm going to show you how to do this in just a second. But if you're waiting to the end, this big crescendo, you are going to set yourself up to continue to get these think it overs. And so, what do I mean by close at the beginning? So, let me show you. So, there are these 6 agreements that when I coach an agent, I teach them how to do this in a way that allows them to close the sale, obtain the client's commitment before they have shown them anything, before they have presented price, before they've presented their value proposition, before any of that. And maybe you're sitting there saying, wow, that would be nice. Well, how do I do that? Well, we are going to not set expectations up front, but rather we are going to have mutual agreements put in place up front with the seller before the appointment even happens. So the first agreement that we are going to have in place is a verbal agreement on how the meeting will go. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? We're going to define what each other mean. We're going to get really, really, really clear on how the next 30 to 60 minutes is going to go. Again, the goal is to equal the playing field. The seller needs to feel that you are in control here, that you don't need the listing, that if this is going to go this way, it's going to go your way or no way. And you are fine leaving now if not. Now, if that's hard for you, I don't know if I can do that, then you are going to be stuck in the seller's matrix forever. You are going to be stuck showing up, throwing up, and hoping you get business. But if you're sick of those days and you're tired of not making money and you're tired of being not respected and you're tired of being walked all over like a floor mat, and you actually want to win dream clients that respect you, that pay you a ton of money to sell their house, then you can decide to change. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get their agreement on making some agreements. And so it's really, really simple. And again, I'm going to be dropping this in great detail next week in my weekly email to everybody who's subscribed to the Confessions of a Listing Agent. So if you haven't, again, there's a link in the description for you to do that so you can see exactly how this is going to work. But as we open up a conversation, it's important for us to have this conversation with the seller to say, listen, we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. Is it okay? Is it okay that we just agree on a few things before we get started? And what do you think sellers say 100% of the time? Sure, yeah, no problem. We get their permission because this whole thing works. Why? Because we make people feel comfortable. We have to make people feel comfortable with these conversations. How do we get people to feel comfortable? We get their permission. So here's the thing about control that most agents don't really understand. In order to get control, you must give the perception that the other person has it. Chris Voss calls this the illusion of control. So this is how we are communicating. We're communicating, leading the seller to believe that they are in control when really we are in control. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. So after we have gotten their agreement to make some agreements, we can move on to step number 2, which is the easiest agreement. And all we're simply going to do here is get their agreement on how long this meeting should go. Why should we do this? So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, typically these meetings go from anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. If we're going longer than that, that means that it probably means that it makes sense for us to work together. Do you have a hard stop? Is there anything that you need to do? Is there any meeting you need to get to? Is it okay if we take the next 45 minutes? Again, we are setting this up where we're both agreeing to what's going to happen. It's like turning on the lights to the haunted house before somebody walks in so they're not filled with anxiety. The seller can literally feel exactly what's going to happen, making them feel what? Oh, comfortable. Yeah, no problem. We got 45 minutes. Nope, we got nowhere to be. No problem at all. Okay, perfect. Then we can get on to agreement number 3, which is probably the most important. And this is where you are going to get the seller's permission to be brutally honest rather than BS them, rather than sugarcoat things like all of your competitors do. I mean, honestly, maybe you're even doing this right now. Hopefully, after this video, you're going to stop. But this is the thing right here that makes you so desirable. Because when you tell a seller, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, now I got to be upfront. My goal tonight is to be brutally honest on what it's going to actually take to get your home sold. And the reason why I say it like that is because most agents that I compete with, meet with sellers like you, and they make things seem better than they really are. They tell you what they think you want to hear. Why? So that you'll list the home with them. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm not interested in that. If you're okay with it, I would much rather prefer to lose your business based on the truth than to get it based on some BS. I would much rather you say, nope, we're not going to list our house with you tonight because of the truth, than me try to make things seem better than they are just to get you to list your home with me. My competitors are prepared to come in here tonight and tell you your home is in better condition than it is. They're prepared to tell you your home can sell for more than it actually can. They're prepared to discount their commission and what they charge as low as it possibly can in order to win you over. Now, if that is the type of agent you want, I will be upfront. I'm not him. There's a lot of those out there. But if you're okay to have a honest, transparent, no BS conversation around what it's actually going to take, someone who's willing to shoot you straight, look you in the eye, and be honest, that is what you can expect from this meeting. Is that okay? Are you comfortable with that? And guess what we're doing? This is all called positioning. Think about what's actually happening right now. Think about all the things that I've just done. Some of you are like, oh my God, I just picked up on it. We have just done one of the most powerful things in persuasion, which is we've held up ourselves in direct comparison to the other agents in the market. And how we've positioned this is in a way that every single person you talk to would much rather be told the truth rather than be BS'd. Wouldn't you? And so now you have just planted a bunch of seeds about your competitors that they may be talking to, that they will want to buy their listing by cutting their commission and telling them their home can sell for more. Now, when that happens, what happens? It puts you in a great light, and it puts your competitors in a way that raises red flags. And we've done all of that by a simple psychological hack, by positioning. Now, what do you think most sellers, every seller, not most, every single seller, every single time in all cases is going to say to this question? You think for 1 second a seller is going to say, we want you to BS us. We want you to actually sugarcoat everything. Just fluff it all. No, they're going to say, yes, please. That's the only thing that we want. We want to be told the truth. Just tell us. We can handle it. We can, let us know what it is. Okay, fine. This sets you up to do what you need to do at a listing appointment that you're scared to do at most listing appointments, which is causing you to either A, lose listings or get listings that don't sell, which is BSing sellers because you're scared to tell them the truth. And you're scared to tell them the truth because you're worried that if you do, you will scare them off. Well, now you don't have to worry about that. Now you've flipped that entire script. Now your disarming honesty becomes a value proposition. You being able to shoot sellers straight is the actual reason they want to list with you. You telling them the actual truth about their home's condition becomes the reason they hire you versus offends them. Make sense? All right, let's keep moving. So then we get into agreement number 4. And when we look at agreement number 4, this is where we make it extremely safe for the seller to tell us no. The reason why you get think it overs is because the seller doesn't feel as though they can tell you the truth. You haven't made the interaction comfortable enough for the seller to be honest. So the seller has to mislead you. You've done it to yourself because you're so attached to the sale. You're so desperate and needy for the sale. They don't want to let you down. They don't want to hurt your feelings. And what do most salespeople want? Believe it or not, most salespeople want to be liked more than they want to make money. This is the unfortunate reality that we live in. Most agents go to listing appointments, get a think it over, and go home and say, honey, I got a great one. It was a really good meeting. They really, really liked me. But in actuality, because they were looking for so much affirmation, they were looking for validation, that they missed the whole thing where the seller was just blowing them off because they didn't trust them that they could actually get the home sold. So we make it very clear to the seller that, listen, you can say no. I know I'm not the right agent for everybody. I am aware of that. And if you say no, it's okay. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm going to be just fine. It's okay. What you cannot say is, I need to think it over. And we define what that means in the context of this conversation with me. Meaning that if we get to the end of this thing and it's not clear because there's unanswered questions, let's talk about it. But if we get to the end and we still don't have questions for each other and you need to think it over, I will assume it is a no for now, which is okay. This is how I get 100% close rate. Why? Because my job is to get a decision, yes or no, without a bias towards one of them, without a bias towards the yes. I don't care what the decision is. Again, I'm not attached to that. My job is to get a decision. And getting a think it over is not a decision. That's why I make the decision for the seller before they even can say it. And this is going to play out here in just a second. So now I've gotten in front of the thing that most sellers use as their get out of jail free card. I've taken it away from them. They cannot use this against me now. We've defined what a think it over means. And in the context of this meeting, a think it over means a no for now. Now, you can change your mind later, but a think it over at the end means it's a no for now, which is totally fine. Okay, fine. Now we get into agreement number 4, which is the reality, and which is I might tell you no, Mr. Seller. Remember, we're equaling the playing field. The decision to work together is not only up to the seller. It's a mutual agreement between two adults. This is equal business stature. This isn't you go and do the dog and pony show, sit back, the seller sits back, eats popcorn while you do your little song and dance, and then they control the whole thing. No, we're going to have equal business stature. And so I just asked the seller a simple question, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you be terribly upset if at any point I feel as though I just can't meet your expectation? And every single time they say no, that'd be fine. We'd rather you tell us that. We'd rather you tell us that you don't feel like you can get our home sold, rather than take the listing and knowing that you can't get the job done. And much rather you be upfront with us. Fine, fair enough. And then lastly, the last agreement, which is super simple, is we just say to the seller, listen, if we get to the end and neither of us say no to each other, perhaps we can spend, 10 or 15 minutes talking about what the next steps could look like to go ahead and get your property on the market. Is that fair? Are you comfortable with all of that? And guess what? You are either going to get an agreement on this up front, or you're going to get the reasons why it isn't before you even present. This way, you don't have to spill your beans in the hallway. You can have a candid conversation up front as to whether or not we should even have this meeting. And so if you want to see an agent who has mastered this, watch this video right here.